Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com. Welcome to You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Miss Michelle Kuei. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing well, Cesar. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here too. So before we dive in, I want to share with the listeners and viewers a little bit about your background. So Michelle Kuei is a certified confidence and leadership coach who helps negative self-talkers to discover inner strength and beauty by overcoming fear for judgments. Michelle's speaking career began in 2018, soon after she founded her own coaching company. She is the author of the new memoir, Perfectly Normal, an Immigrant Story of Making It in America. She's a board member of the United Nations Associations of the USA and Clinical Pharmacist at USC Keck Medical Center. Michelle was born in Taiwan and grew up in New York, but today she lives in Los Angeles with a short-haired brown tabby cat named Buster. If you're looking for her, odds are that you're going to find her at the gym. That's amazing. I love that. So, Michelle, that's good. I mean, definitely coaching is what you're doing now. But before we dive into that, I want to know more about you and tell me about obviously you grew up in Taiwan. So I want to know about that story, how you grew up and some of that information.
So as I was mentioning, I was born in Taiwan and, when I was growing up, I was just like a regular kid, like nothing special about me. But what changed my life is one day when I was coming off from school and I was at 11 years old at that time, and my mom was running late to pick me up from school, so I was just hanging out and waiting with my friends, and I saw her coming from the other side of the street, so I decided I'm gonna meet her across the street so that she doesn't have to make a U-turn.
Yep.
So I got up and I started crossing the street, and as I got to the middle of the street, I heard like people shouting. There was a lot of emotion. There's a lot of things that was going on at the same time. I got confused and I saw my best friend waving at me, and then she was just yelling, "Stop, stop, stop." And I didn't know how to react. So in that moment of time, I kind of just froze. And as I was freezing there, standing in the middle of the street, I was smelling that burning rubber. You know how there's friction and there's, yeah, so I smelled that rubber, and then by the time I realized it, I woke up, I was already in the hospital bed.
Oh, wow.
And so all that piece of memory of how I went down to the floor to the point where I got to the hospital, I was completely out. It was blank. And I remember I was struggling when I wrote the book because my editor was asking me to, hey, Michelle, you need to give people more detail about exactly what the accident, how the accident happened. And I just couldn't remember. That whole piece is just blacked out. And all these pieces of information came from friends and family afterwards and describing, oh yeah, there was a car coming and we're driving very fast towards you and you just didn't have time to get out of the way. And so that piece was completely blacked out. But I remember after I got to the hospital, I was feeling a lot of pain and I was looking down and I couldn't move. And I noticed that, the doctor had wrapped me up with the plaster. So all the way from my waist, all the way to my ankle. So I was pretty much all bound. And it almost felt like, these hard pants that they put on me that I had to stabilize. So I got sent home after the incidents, and I kind of just recovered from home. I was homebound for like three months at that time. At that moment, my parents set up a section of our living room. Basically, for that following 3 months, I was just hanging out in my living room. Initially, it was great because for a 11-year-old, no more school. It's like isolation, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's great. It felt great. But then I started to realize that, I don't get to see my friends anymore, and I miss hanging out with them. And back then we didn't have iPad. There's no electronics. So I was just home alone. And my only playmate was my sister. And she's like 4 years younger than me. So she and I, we had a strong bonding because of, those moments where she was helping me. And I kind of took it for granted that she's always there for me. So a lot of my emotion, I actually took it out on her. And there's so many times I told her to do things for me because I felt entitled.
Yeah.
And that was the sense I got, during growing up and having that incident of that accident. I felt that there's a sense of entitlement. This thing happened to me, and therefore I have every right to direct people and tell people what to do.
Yeah.
That was my attitude towards life up for a very long time. And then I found out that it doesn't work. So growing up and then after the accident, I spent 4 years in a physical rehab center in Taiwan. It was located in Taipei. And the policy and the rule was that the kids, anyone who's going to the rehab center, will stay there by themselves, and their parents can only visit them on the weekend. So kind of like a boarding school here. You get sent away, and that's where you're sent. So 4 years I was there just by myself. And I remember getting my first period when I was alone. And that fear and panic and anxiety as a young woman getting it first time, it was just not very comfortable. Yeah. And it was almost to the point where I was shaming myself for having it. And I actually described it in my book, how that moment of shame that just came when I was there alone. When I was 15, my parents got the permission to move to America. So we came to America, and when I first got here, I didn't speak English at all. They put me in the English as second language class.
ESL.
Right, ESL. So I started at ESL, and all you learn is like, the daily, the desk, and the water bottle. And there's like a lot of, they teach you simple words in restaurant, how to order. And I was in ESL for a long time, and I started to learn words, and that turn into sentences, and sentences turn into paragraph. And I slowly moved up to the point where I was ready for English class. But sometimes even you feel that you're ready for something, like as long as people don't believe that you have the ability, they'll try and do everything they can to stop you from achieving it. So I remember going into my guidance office, my counselor, yes. Mm-hmm. I went and sit in front of him. I said, listen, I'm ready to move on to regular English class. Can you move me to English class? And he's like, well, I don't think you're ready yet. And he was trying to talk me out of it. And I was really adamant. I don't know where I got that determination from. But I was sitting across his office at his desk. I said, I'm ready to do this. I'm going to do this. And you are going to put me in the regular English class right now this semester. And finally, he just kind of gave in because, this annoying little girl, it just won't get up and leave. So we finally agree upon. And then ever since then, I've been English. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. So when you were in Taiwan, so were you considered to be low class, middle class, upper class? What kind of classification were you, if any?
My dad was in the military, so we grew up in the middle class. Okay. So money. My parents never made money as an issue for us. Like we have to do a lot of portion because I have two siblings, my sister and my brother. Yeah. So we all share. But in terms of like the finance and all that, we were all in the middle class, and they try to provide as much as they can.
And that's how the opportunity came about. You guys moving to the Americas through the military. Okay, got you.
So we got the permission through my grandmother. They were here in America for a long time. Oh, okay. And so they helped us to apply, and that's how we got our permission to come.
Got you. Now, in terms of when you came here, when you first came here and you were in ESL, how was that experience for you? Like, obviously not knowing how to speak English, not knowing anybody. I want to just kind of see if that was actually a moment of difficulty for you, right? Or you were okay with, just stepping into this new, I guess, society from that sense.
Absolutely not. I didn't feel like I was belong. And I think this is a feeling that's shared by a lot of immigrants, coming from another country. English is not my first language. And coming here, I remember one day I was going to Kentucky Fried Chicken, and this is in 1980s. Okay. And they didn't have a lot of, they didn't have order by number. Like right now you go to a restaurant, you can order by number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's simple. And back then we didn't have order by number. So I remember going to Kentucky Fried Chicken one day. I was looking up at the menu. There's the dark meat, there's the, the chicken breast, and there's just all different parts of chicken. I had no idea, no clue how to order. And I was just really stunned by how many words I have to figure out and how to order. And there's different, it doesn't even mean anything to me. So I was standing there and trying to order and place an order. And I walked out of the Kentucky Fried Chicken with the wrong order. So I only got a piece of, I think it was a biscuit and some Coke, because I know how to say Coke. I remember how to say Coke. Yeah. So it was a challenge, going into the restaurant and just using my words to get food is very difficult, very challenging.
Yeah.
And not to mention, when you go out and you're hanging out with friends in high school, they're all these people are speaking English and they're speaking really fast. It made me feel
out of place
and really left out, because I was a teenage. I was in 15 or 16. That's the time where you wanted to feel like you're in a group. And I couldn't do that because they're all talking really fast. So what I end up choosing is I went and started hanging out with my friends who speak Chinese. So, there's always that groups of friends and different culture. People speak Chinese. That's a Hispanic. This is American. And so it became really separated. And I never got a chance to learn English in high school. I didn't start really speaking English until I got into college, when I went away to college, because then it was in a dorm setting and people are more segregated. And so in order to communicate, you do have to, start connecting with other culture, other people from different countries. So then I started to use more and more English.
And when you look back, I mean, definitely there was some stuff that you have to overcome coming into the States and not being able to step into that comfort zone of the society. When you look back now, are there any specific lessons that maybe then you didn't realize that there were a lesson? Then and perhaps now you look at it and oh, that was what I was supposed to learn. There's a lesson to be learned from that experience, or something that has helped you out in your life now?
Yeah, so there's so many multiple moments where I'll give you a specific one. So one day I was coming off from my high school, and I had to take the bus. And when I got discharged from the hospital, my doctor had given me a pair of metal bracelet shoes to wear so that my leg can be stabilized. It doesn't go back. So I got onto the bus, and I remember it was so packed that I didn't have any place to sit. So I was holding on to the side of a chair. And I was just holding on there, and then this girl, she was sitting down, and I recognized her. She was from my English class. She kind of just pushed my hand away. She moved my hand forcefully. She didn't want me to touch her chair. And she gave me a look. And I would always remember that look. And it hurt my feeling for, number one, I was just standing there. I didn't have anywhere else to stand. Number two, it almost made me felt like, I have some kind of disease that I can pass it on to her. And it was a lot of judgment that I was sensing from her. And the other word that we typically use would be prejudice, right? I felt I was being really discriminated. But then looking back, what I realized is that there's a moment where people don't know. When people don't know certain things, when they're not comfortable with what they don't know, it's that fear of not knowing that will push people away. And her reaction is completely normal for her. she didn't know what I am, who I am, and what made me this way. So of course, out of fear, out of that being afraid, she would just want to protect herself. So back then, I looked at it as discrimination.
Yeah,
but
right.
now I'm looking at it as it was a normal human response that she was experiencing. It has nothing to do with me. It was all about herself.
Yeah, and that's that's actually a great point, because that's something that even now, right? I say that a lot of people go through that, right? And again, you might be walking on the park, or you might be on the bus stop, or whatever the case may be, on the metro, and sometimes you don't know what is going on with that other person, and or what's going inside their mind, or the challenges that they might be having back home. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times we as kids don't have, I guess, we don't see it, and we don't have the ability to recognize some of those things. I feel like now, me as an adult, definitely judgment is not part of my vocabulary. I don't want to judge anybody. I want to worry about myself and just take care of that. And when you start realizing that, I believe that you as a person have definitely more of a free will of doing different things in your life, and even just getting things done from a different aspect, right? So yeah, I can definitely see that. Now, you went to college, and so going to college, was there something in particularly that you wanted to be while going to college, or you just went with the idea of, go to school, get a good education? What was your thought process in that?
My thought process when I first got into college was, I want to do pre-med. I want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor. And then I think a lot of immigrants and a lot of people coming from a different culture, we all came here for a goal, and so did my parents. And that goal was having a good education. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of time having a good education means that, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, someone who can, bring some income to the family, mm-hmm. and to be able to sustain ourselves, right? So when I first got into college, I wanted to do pre-med, I wanted to be a doctor, and, I wanted to make a lot of money so I don't have to worry about my life, and being able to take care of myself. And that's what my parents want for me too, because they want me to be able to take care of myself. Because, I at that time I was already walking with crutches, because my physical challenge actually just debilitating really tremendously by the time I got to college. So they want me to have some kind of skill so that I can create income, bring income, and just kind of live off myself. Mm-hmm. So I decided, okay, so, this is what my parents want me to do, and this is kind of what I want to do. I want to be able to make money and just to live independently. So I wanted to be pre-med.
Nice. And did that work? How did that work out for you?
Well, it kind of worked out halfway.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, by my sophomore year, actually junior year, I realized that, being a doctor, first of all, I can never meet up with a grade. I almost flunked my biology class when I was in a freshman class.
Yeah.
So I knew my grade didn't really cut it. So I decided, what's the next thing closest to a medical doctor? Well, maybe I took already all these science class. So I said, well, let me just see and pharmacy if it's something that I wanted to do. Yeah. So I went to pharmacy school, and that was after college. That's another 4 years of schooling with pharmacy. So I graduated with a pharmacist degree instead of doctor degree.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I'm still a doctor, but just a doctor of pharmacy rather than doctor of medicine.
Yeah, no, definitely. So how did this coaching came to play? How did that grow? Where did the idea come from?
Mm-hmm. So the idea came from after I realized, so I graduated from with Doctor of Pharmacy. I was in the practice already for 10, 15 years. And then at some point of my life, I realized that's not what I wanted. Because every day I go to school, I feel burned out. I go to work, I feel burned out. I'm all stressed and tired. And I was to the point where I didn't feel my life has a purpose. And looking back and looking at my accident, I feel my life was a curse. Like everything I do has always been a curse. Everything that I can think of going wrong will go wrong. So I realized that there's no purpose of my life, and what I don't know if I can do this and live this way for the next 40 years. So I decided one day that, since physical challenge is my challenge, and right now maybe, well, the viewer can, but the listener can. I have a background, virtual background that's Machu Picchu. So I decided to challenge myself with this challenge, this physical challenge. I'm going to hike. So I got a personal trainer to work with me, and I said, I'm gonna go hike, and he's like, oh great, where do you want to hike? He was all motivated and everything. He said, where do you want to hike? I said, I want to go hike Machu Picchu, and he said, all right, yeah. Let's talk about that. I said, yeah, let's talk about that. So he and I start working, and by 2016, I went and I brought my 2 crutches and went and hiked a 4-day trail.
Wow, amazing.
And I came home. I was really inspired because I found out that, there's nothing that we cannot do. There's nothing that you cannot overcome. Right. You can overcome anything, which is perfectly. Yeah. Because once you start setting your mind to doing things, and your heart is driven by it, then you can overcome anything. And for the longest time, that physical challenge was my biggest challenge. And it made me realize that by having a different mindset, different perspective of how I see myself and all these tragedy or all in these incidents, which I used to think that it was a curse, they're actually a blessing in the sky. And so I came home, I was so inspired. I realized that my purpose is really to inspire others in taking action. And I remember the last day I was standing on the Machu Picchu, my hands was up, and there's all these people clapping and cheering for me. It was up there that I found my purpose, and I brought it back home. How do I bring inspiration to other people? So I started working on, okay, what are some of the ways that I can do this? And then, like, lo and behold, the word life coach came into my head, and someone else also suggested it. You've been really good in listening and hearing people and providing advice, and why don't you look into coaching? And I said, okay, let me come home. So I Googled it, life coaching, and I found this certification program through iPad coaching, and they provide like a 1 year of coaching program, and it's really intensive, and there's a lot of curriculum. So I went through that. I went through the whole schooling for another year. Last year I got certified, and then earlier this year I got recognized as by the International Coaching Federation. So this is how I got into coaching.
Nice.
And it was all because of me going through my journey, realizing that all these skills and tools, they actually have a place in everyone's life, including myself. And like every day I still wake up. Sometimes, I feel like really, like you feel like shit. Yeah. Every once in a while, you feel like shit. And how do you use these skills and apply these skills to help yourself in removing those fear, removing those judgments, so that you actually live a life with purpose and fulfillment? That's what I'm thriving on.
Yeah, I love what you mentioned and what you said, and it comes down to, again, going back to that. And I think many people might be in that place, might be stuck, might be, in a place where they don't know what to do next. And I love what you just mentioned because, although you felt like, okay, well, my life has been kind of like, every event has been negative to an extent, right? And you're ready to kind of give up. You found something inside of you and said, which I want to find out what that was, but you found something inside of you and said, you know what? No, let me go hiking. Let me go and do that. And not even look at the limitations that I might have, whether I'm on crutches or not. I'm not going to look at those limitations. I'm just going to go out and do it, right? And that is a true testimonial of you are able to overcome anything you want, because I never done that. I definitely want to do that, except it is not an easy hike. I know that for a fact. And so being able to say, you know what, I'm going to go do that, and then still come out and say I didn't, that's critical. The other thing too is that you told yourself inside of your mind that, hey, I can do anything. That you're not going to start putting those limitations. And so when people start changing that mind shift and start seeing things from a different perspective, a different lens, change the frame of that, you can definitely be able to come out and overcome that. And I love the fact that you set out yourself to do that, right? That's very amazing, because I know a lot of people start complaining or creating, excuses or things to that extent to say, no, I don't have the money, I don't have the means, I don't have this, I don't have that. They talk about all of the things that they don't have. They focus on all of the things that they don't want instead of focusing on things that they do want, right? And as you know, as a life coach, what you focus do expand. And so therefore you need to start talking about what you do want, not what you don't want, right? And so I really love that. Now, in terms of you being able to say, you know what, there's more for me than this. And by the way, I also love the fact that you said everything that you went through was a lesson, was something, it was a positive thing, whether, although it might seem like it was a negative thing, getting hit by a car, being on crutches. No, it's a positive thing because it's brought you to this point where now you can share your story. You can help other people. You can empower other people. So to me, I also see that as a blessing, What is now your, I guess, number one driving factor to continue to do the things that you're doing?
I think passion and my purpose is the main thing, because this is something that I decided, I made a choice. In that moment of time, I made a choice, right? I choose not to live in my life being playing small and feeling sorry for myself. I chose the other path. And the fact that I chose this path, that was driven by passion. That was driven by purpose. And I think a lot of time, we lose our focus because we don't emotionally connect to the choices that we make. And when you say you want to go to the gym, for example, are you emotionally connected to your choice? And that's very important to focus on, because we can all have, think differently. We can all think positively, but as long as you're not connected emotionally to the positive thinking, then there's a chance that your motivation will drop. So I think a lot of people go to the Tony Robbins seminar, and then, the first week it's great. It's really empowered, really inspiring. But then the second week, your motivation starts to dropping because you're not emotionally connected to the goal that you have. You're not emotionally driven by the passion that you have. Then of course it makes perfect sense why that motivation would just be gone. So a lot of my drive come from that purpose and that sense of passion.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned, and there's an African proverb that says that if there's no enemies inside of you, there's no enemy outside, right? So it kind of goes back to that. The biggest enemy we have is the one we have in our head and in our mind. And so once we're able to overcome that and say there's no limitations, or you start choosing not to be living in a certain aspect, or you choose to say, I'm not going to accept this anymore, then there's nothing on the outside that can stop you, right? Because then you're going to be determined. You're going to put your mind into it. You're going to do whatever you need to do to get it happen and to make it happen. And a lot of times people tend to forget that the power is within you, right? And I do believe that. Actually, that sounded like the Star Wars too. The power is within you. But anyways, and I wasn't even thinking about that. Nevertheless, the power is with you. And so you have the ability to do that, right? So tell me, what are some of the challenges that maybe some of your the people that you're coaching come to you that you have been able to help them with?
So a lot of my clients come to me because they have low self-esteem, or they're looking for some way to boost up their confidence. And a lot of those confidence is lacking because we're so busy listening to our negative self-talk, which is why I focus on the negative self-talk, because the self-talk can work both ways. It can lift us up, or it can keep us down and keep us playing small. And if you're standing and doing your presentation or doing an interview, if you keep listening to the negative self-talk, then of course it makes sense why you feel nervous, you feel anxious, there's a fear coming into you. It's all because there's so much message that we're sending ourselves. So most of my clients come to me because they have so much going on in their life that's just, they're not playing their game. They're not using their full potential.
Got it. And in terms of that, you work with a one-on-one basis, or you do kind of more like the group settings?
I work one-on-one base, and sometimes I will do a group, but usually those are by, depending on throughout the year. So mostly one-on-one.
Got you. So let's talk about your book. So that book just came out, or is coming out, or is already out?
It's already out. It's out, and it was out last August. It came out the second half of the year. So it came out in August, and it's available on Amazon and also on my website. And if people want to order it from my website, I personally signed it and send it to them. Nice. Yeah, so those are the two choices.
Yeah. Now, what inspired you to write the book?
I felt there's a message that needs to be heard by the world, and I do believe that I have a strong message, and I believe my story, there's pieces in there that would inspire other people. And like I said earlier, my purpose is to inspire, and having this book is my way of spreading that inspiration.
Got you. Yeah, I love that. And then in terms of you continue to stay positive, to continue to push forward, to continue to do all these things, are there any specific things you do to help you be in a positive state of mind? Any habits or anything that you might want to share with us?
So there's a couple of things. I love meditation. So I spend like 5 minutes meditation, just 5 minutes. I sit on a corner of my room and just kind of quiet myself down. And the other thing I love is journaling, like writing things down. Journal is a great way to bring my thoughts into a piece of paper, and then I can go back to it and look at, why did I even say that? Why would I think that way? So it creates a lot of self-awareness for me. And the other thing is, I love connection. Like talking to people I didn't realize how much I love to talk.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I could just chat away all the time. And if you don't see me in the gym, you'll probably find me at a bar.
All right, got you. And we are in the same town, so I'm sure I'm going to run through you. So. And one thing that I've heard from many people is journaling, and I think that's critical because you're right. A lot of times when you're journaling, you're taking those thoughts in your head and putting them into a piece of paper, and I think with that is powerful because instead of keeping all of those ideas, all those thoughts, whether they're positive or negative, on your head, put it on a piece of paper. And I heard somebody saying, you can have two journals, one where you dump all the negative stuff into that one journal. And then at the end of the day, or you can rip the page and burn it, or once the journal is completely full, burn that so that you get rid of all that negative stuff. And then on the other journal, you get all of the positive things that come to your mind. Either way, I think is actually a good practice to do, and a lot of people do that. Sometimes you just never know. You might have that idea that you need to help you boost yourself, to the next level. Maybe not necessarily financially, yet it could also be, just if you're in a depressed state of mind or you're going through some challenges, you might just get something that's going to help you with that, right? So definitely. Now, in terms of things that you're planning to do, what's next for you? What are some of the things that you're working on in the near future?
So right now, I'm actually working on a 10-day Speak Up challenge, and that's going to open up to registration next week because I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, people don't speak up. It's like we're all wearing this invisible mask and covering ourselves, and when you covering yourself, people can hear you. Like you have a very important message to share. No matter what background you came from, where you came from, we all have a message or story that we need to tell. We need to share that. And that's the beauty about having each individual being unique because we all contribute to this world. So my 10-day challenge would be focusing on how do you show up fully and authentically and speak your brand, speak your message, speak up about who you are and what do you want to do for this world. What is your purpose? So I'm actually I just announced it yesterday. So
nice, awesome.
Open up the pre-registration next week. So yeah.
That's exciting. No, that's awesome. I just have a couple more questions for you before I let you go. What's your website or where can people find you?
They can find me on elevatelifecoaching.org. That's my website. Okay. And they can also find me on Instagram, Elevate Life Coach.
Okay, awesome. So definitely they need to check you out on either one of those two platforms. And then in terms of, you've given us a lot of great tips, a lot of great ideas. If there was one thing you can tell the listeners and the viewers that they can overcome and now, right, they can do something today to overcome a challenge they're going through now, what would that one thing be?
Well, today I would love to share that, when you hear the voices in your head, when there's voices coming onto you, no matter what things that you're doing right now, what next step you are on, when that voice turn on, always ask yourself, be curious about that voice. Is it coming off from a fear base or is it coming from a loving place. A fear-based voice would tell you, you can't do this. It's going to hurt you. It's not good for you. Whereas a loving place, it's more about what would you expect to get out of this experience? It's more a curiosity place. And so when you start getting curious and start providing inquiry into what is it that you're doing, you gain so much clarity in terms of what is the purpose of the things I'm doing? What do I hope to achieve from this? And there goes that fear. There's no more fear because you know why you're here, why you're doing it. And, you know, that understanding why is so important to what we do.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love that. I think that's one of the biggest things is being able to determine and understanding what is the purpose and what is your why, right? And find that. If you were to give a couple of ideas as to how, because a lot of people say, well, it's easy to say, find my why. Well, I don't know what's my why, otherwise I would have found it already. Or I don't know what's my purpose, otherwise I would already be doing it. What are some maybe ideas or tips that you can say people can do to start finding that why, to start finding that that purpose in their lives? Because a lot of people are just, in my opinion, living day by day, just taking up the space without a true purpose or that true why. So how can people start tapping into that, what I call the unconscious mind, to be able to start looking at that purpose or that why?
So every time I hear that question, I always think about the genie in the bottle, right? We all had a genie in the bottle, and we always wanted to dream big, but we never really dream big because we're so afraid of failing. And so that why has to do with your ability to dream big. So I encourage everyone to dream big. If you have a genie in the bottle right now in your hand, you want to dream big. What would that dream be? Right? People can say, well, I want to be Elon Musk. Okay, so let's talk about Elon Musk. You want to be Elon Musk. What is it that you're doing today that's helping you gaining that steps towards becoming Elon Musk? Is Elon Musk going to sit on the couch right now and drinking and watching games? Probably not. Elon Musk must be listening to podcasts, watching some kind of inspirational video, or hanging out and connecting to friends. So what is it that you're doing on an everyday basis? And that goes back to the values that you have for your life. What are your values? You can download copies of some of the values that people have listed. And what I would invite everyone to go back and review your values, like circle the one that's most important to you and examine and reevaluate based on those values. What are you doing in your life that are in alignment to your values? So if you value honesty, are you fulfilling that value on a daily basis? Is everything that you said, everything that you do in alignment with honesty? And that would help you gaining more clarity towards and moving into the direction of having that big dream. You know, Elon Musk has a set of values, and every moment he's applying those values to get to where he wants to be. So do that.
Yeah.
And I think that we get really confused about our values and, what is it that we're doing? How are we in alignment with getting to what we do? So we start falling off the track.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that, Michelle. Thank you so much. That was actually pretty good and a good way to kind of end this too. So definitely looking at those values, looking at all that stuff is going to definitely help you get connected more close to your yourself, and then just continue to push forward with that, right? So any last things you might want to share before I let you go?
Just stay well and speak up.
Yeah.
don't let the invisible mask hide you. Yeah,
definitely. No, I love that. So Michelle, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our time together, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for the rest of you guys, please make sure you check out Michelle, connect with her on Instagram, go check her webpage, get her book, and definitely just connect with her. And till next time, make sure you like, subscribe, comment on this podcast, and stay tuned for the future podcasts coming up. Have a good day. Bye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.